Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow morning. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, please drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Greg Maslov, chartered accountant and co-founder and co-CEO of SAPRO, and is also based in New York City. Greg, thanks so much for joining me today.
Tooways, how's it from the other side of the ocean? And hello to your audience. Pleasure to be here and very excited to kind of, share my story with you today.
Awesome. What time is it there now?
It is 11 a.m. So we're just getting going here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us during the workday. But let's jump straight into questions. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Greg Maslov? Give us the backstory.
Okay. Well, who is Greg Maslov? So it's taken me a long time to figure that out. But Greg Maslov is someone whose purpose is to uplift others and someone that cares about the earth and leaving it to be a more sustainable and better place for the younger generation and the generations to come. I'm married to a beautiful wife. She's a cardiologist here in New York City. She was actually a frontline worker during the worst time of COVID. So she's been to war, so to speak, and have two kids, two boys, 7 and 3, who I'd say act like teenagers. So I think the younger generation's just growing faster and faster. I'm a chartered accountant, born and bred in Jozi or Johannesburg, South Africa, where I went to school in King Edwards, studied at Wits, did articles at PwC, and then kind of been in the banking sector for most of my career before SAPRO.
Okay, and I know you touched on your family a little bit, but otherwise, outside of work, the weekends, where do you spend your time?
So it's a great question. So in terms of sports, like I know I should be on the golf course. So even our advisors like Greg, you got to start to learn to play golf because a lot of the people that you want to hang out with play golf. But I'm kind of more into active sports like cycling, off-road cycling, mountain biking, kind of swimming, hitting the beach, hiking. So outside there, it's really trying to do as much of that as possible with the family. My wife likes to lie on the beach. Sometimes a bit of convincing to do, but she's getting outvoted by 3 boys to 1 girl. So we normally get our way.
Okay, amazing. But let's talk about SAPRO specifically. I read a few months ago that SAPRO and your competitor are like the Airbnb and Uber of the audit industry. For the young professionals out there, who is the ideal person that you're looking for, and what different opportunities are available to them?
So for us, or like anyone, I think you need to have a shared purpose, right? And that's where I always look at it. So what is SAPRO about? So SAPRO is about uplifting people, uplifting communities, uplifting clients, right? And everything we do is around that. And the way Dario and I have modeled SAPRO is, you finish articles and you're not really sure what to do next. And we were like, this younger generation and ourselves back then, we were quite adventurous to the normal person. I'm in New York because I was seeking adventure. I wanted to take the road less traveled. And taking the road less traveled without help is very difficult, right? So if you enjoy sleeping on the floor on a mattress or next to a train station and you got smoke coming into your window like every second, then you can do it the way I did it, right? Or you can go with a company like SAPRO that genuinely cares about you, cares about your unique needs, and really trying to innovate the way we work and live and kind of integrate those two together, right? So basically you come into an ecosystem, not a business, but an ecosystem that's very kind of formulated in trying to help you kind of figure out what's important to you, and how to integrate work life, family life, and do amazing things like, cultural exchange, travel, mobility, ways to kind of not just work on your capabilities, but cross-train you into new industries. So we really look at SAPRO as the company of the future, and an innovation and impact company that's going to change the way, in fact, like front running the way work and life is going to be in the future in the coming years.
Okay. So for the South Africans out there who are considering applying at SAPRO, are there opportunities to immigrate to the USA or to Europe via SAPRO?
Yeah, look, we don't. So from an immigration perspective, what we like to tell everyone is the great thing about SAPRO is you can come into our platform, right, into our ecosystem, and maybe travel is very important for you. And maybe you have a perception that the grass is greener on the other side. But, you can have the benefit of joining a SAPRO, letting us know, look, the travel aspect is very important for me. And obviously right now travel's been a little bit depressed with COVID, but that our mobility is coming up again, and we're doing a lot of planning with clients around that, and that's going to be available hopefully in scale in the coming months. But you can go and travel and you can experience what it's like to live overseas, right? And then you can see, is this really greener? Is this really nicer? Is this like meet my ambitions? And potentially you'll say yes, potentially say no. And again, what we do is we look to facilitate what's important to you. And if you're looking to live in another country, that can be facilitated. And the benefit of it being done through SAPRO is all about uplifting South Africa and other communities that would benefit from our program. So you would still stay connected to SAPRO. Tooways, you there? Tooways? I think we're having a technical malfunction right now. Let's see what's going on.
Apologies, Greg. We've had a few technical difficulties. It looks like your camera has gone off. Apologies. It's not
No,
load shedding. It looks like it's on our side.
I don't want to say load shedding, but you dropped off very quickly. I was like,
Apologies for that.
I was gonna try ping you offline and just see are we still on or not. But
you were talking about traveling when we cut off.
Yeah. So so what I was saying is, you can travel through SAPRO. You can see what it's like. You can see the dynamics of living overseas. And then you can decide. I'm always like, do what's best for you. Because if you do what's best for you, generally that's what's going to be best for others around you. But I'm a person that lives in the US, and I'd say that my lifestyle from a US perspective is good, right? And I can tell you, I pine for South Africa. Like, I dream about South Africa every day. I wish my kids went to South African schools. I wish I was around my family so that they could help support us with raising our children. When my kids are in South Africa, they're the happiest. Like, Dad, I want to be here. I don't want to leave. So, look, when I was a youngster, I didn't leave with the intent of never coming back. I left with the intent of, broadening my horizons and pushing myself and seeing, can I kind of hang with these other guys like across the pond? And then just life kind of kept me here. My wife's a cardiologist. She should have to redo medicine to go back to South Africa. It would be a massive sacrifice for her. In fact, it's a massive sacrifice for her to leave New York City. I was telling you earlier, always, I'm trying to leave New York City. I'm here in Manhattan. I want to go to a place that mimics the South Africa environment more closely. And can't leave because she's stuck not stuck, but she's working at a hospital here, and it's hard for her to work somewhere else. So, the biggest advice I can give people that are looking into it, don't always think that the grass is greener. Each country has pros and cons, but SAPRO is a phenomenal place where you can learn what it's like and then decide what's best for you. And even if you do immigrate, and we do some immigration, it's not very high volume because most people want to stay in South Africa, and we've actually we've run surveys to see that, which is, I think, fantastic. You're always still connected, right? Because, and that's what I love about SAPRO is I'm connected to the country even though I'm not there. And we want to do good. We want to uplift, and we want to help the economy there and help the people. You know what? You don't need to leave if you're working at SAPRO. You can get the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
I want to apologize for the technical difficulties that we seem to be experiencing today. It just seems to be cleared up now. Are there any training contract opportunities at SAPRO?
Training, as in like trainees to become a chartered accountant?
Yes, like training office.
Yeah, we don't offer trainee opportunities at SAPRO. I think in terms of getting a diverse experience in training, the public accounting firms, in my opinion, again, are the best place to get that. Where you have a very stable 3-year journey, with people that are experts in delivering that. I do know that that's something we get asked about, but in terms of our strategic vision, we're not looking to offer traineeship in the near term. And to be honest, I don't know if that would benefit the upcoming CA population. I'd be surprised if SACA even allowed that.
Okay. And for the other designations like SEMA, CIPA, ACCA, and even AGASA, are there opportunities at SAPRO as well?
Hopefully to come, right? So from a strategic vision perspective, I came out as a CA, and I remember being very anxious. I had a lot of anxiety. I came out on secondment with PwC many, many years ago. And I was pleasantly surprised that I could hold my own with the crowd here in New York City, which is obviously got reputationally a very high regard in the market. And that's where the seed started. And that's kind of when I founded the first program of this sort. And eventually things turned into SAPRO. So our thinking is, we're educating the market through the CA brand. Again, I'm a CA, so I understand that. But we're seeing many, many opportunities where we can help the whole accounting community in South Africa and around the world. It doesn't just have to be in audit, which is kind of where most of us focus today. So we're busy working on those plans. We're deploying capital, we're deploying thought leadership, and we're busy building that up. So that's definitely on the strategic roadmap. But like all things, you need to be able to deliver. And the most important person we need to deliver in is our employees, right? So that infrastructure is coming up, and hopefully in the coming months, we'll start recruiting in those areas as well.
If anybody's got any questions for Greg, please add them to the chat. We'll answer all the questions towards the end. You touched on it a little bit, but you mentioned it. I mean, you're still a South African chartered accountant. You still got the CASA designation, but you've worked in the United States for over 15 years. Did you consider the CPA designation? And maybe talk us through your thought process of staying with the CASA and not getting the CPA.
It's a great question, and you can chuck MBA in there as well. Look, when I kind of came back to the US after I finished my stint at PwC, so I went back to South Africa. I was there a couple of years. I started doing project management in the banking sector, and then came out to the US, co-founded a company, and we were looking to consult to, again, the banking sector. It did pass my mind in terms of doing a CPA or an MBA. And back then you didn't have these easier rules. Now it's easier to kind of do that. You'd have to do articles again and that sort of thing and restudy. And I kind of applied my mind that I wasn't going to go back into audit. I wasn't sure on the MBA. I decided not to do it at the end because it was a big investment of time and effort, and I thought it would take away from my practical experience of work experience. So I basically just stuck at it and kind of backed myself that, I would figure things out and I would be able to deliver high quality work and network. So I ended up putting my attention there. So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I've done dozens of startup companies, right? And like all entrepreneurs, most of them failed, but you learn through your failure. But I always kind of worked in the bank in an entrepreneurial kind of sense, and that helped me from a success perspective. Which kind of funny, I ended up reporting into a number of chief risk officers. I delivered about $250 million on average of change in the banking sector, particularly in risk. And I ended up having a whole bunch of MBAs working for me, not many CPAs, because I was like doing projects, particularly in risk. So there weren't many needs for accountants, but I had many MBAs working for me, reporting into me, and I wasn't an MBA. So I always like to advise people, whatever you want to do or whatever you're thinking of, you got to always have a purpose. You got to have a reason. MBAs are phenomenal, CA phenomenal, CPA phenomenal, but it's got to line up with what's your purpose, what's your journey, what you want to do. And if it doesn't line up, you either need to change your purpose or you need to figure out a different way to get there, because life's short. It's going to go like that, right? And you got to just make sure that you're fulfilling your inner need, your inner spirit. So I thankfully just decided it wasn't for me. I didn't do it. And thank God I did, because I would have lost, a number of years and a lot of money on something that wouldn't have given me a return, right?
Some may even argue, or I even argue, that you got your MBA in practice on the ground in those startups more than anything.
Well, luckily the CA is just such a tremendous, and look, another thing I just want to tell your audience, especially the youngsters, don't underestimate who you are, where you come from, and your education. Do not underestimate it. You guys are world champions, world beaters. And you might not realize that because we're so isolated. I didn't realize that. I mean, we're so isolated in South Africa. Like we don't know. I mean, obviously less isolated now, but you don't know. You guys are amazing. So back yourself. And the CA, and I didn't do the impact because I was looking at the course and like, I already did this. Like, unless I'm going to go there with a greater purpose, networking, and, it just didn't make sense, right? So I ended up not doing it. But again, MBA would recommend it. But again, make sure that it lines up with who you are and where you want to go and what you want to do. Don't do it for the sake of it looks great on my resume, because I've seen people like that and it's not helped them. But, it's maybe even done the opposite. But look, it's cool on a title. It looks nice.
True.
Yeah.
You deal with a lot of international clients, and I suppose US clients in particular. What are the differences in servicing an SA client versus, say, a US one? Are they different in expectations or different in ability?
SA clients are way more demanding.
That's interesting.
So I don't know, like how people had articles. I mean, my articles was rough, right? Like I was in financial services, I was auditing investment banks. And let's just say you don't go through varsity where they kind of teach you derivatives and the Greeks and the and this and that and how a bank works. And I remember just going into these meetings in first year and I was like, what the crap is going on? It's like, I couldn't understand like anything. And I was like even reading books and trying to do stuff on the side, reading the prior audit papers. And I was just like, I don't understand what's going on. And it's kind of scary that I was, billing the client with my hours, because I guess that first year in banking, you're not very good, right? And the clients, obviously, I found my way, and I actually became very accomplished in audits in the banking sector, but it was very hard. And the clients made it very tough. The clients were like these like A+, top of the creme de la creme, They were so impatient and they were rude and nasty, and like they'd come in there and say, hey, how you doing? And I'd be like, oh, are you back here again? Like, seriously, is it audit time already? It's like, come, like, give me a break, man. Like, that was so mean. And they were good guys. It's just, they were busy and they had stuff to do. And, the auditors always asking silly questions. And then when I came to the US, I remember like my first client, it was an Australian client, Australian bank based in New York City with PwC was doing the audit, like a big Australian bank, but small here in the US. And I remember like having my first meeting there and I was like, I need this. And I don't know, the guy said, sure, no problem. He sent me the stuff. And then he puts in his email, I'm really sorry if I was impatient with you the other day. Like, I apologize. And I was like, dude, I didn't even realize that he was angry or upset or anything. He looked like super chill to me. So in my experience, South Africans are hardworking, very passionate, like trying to do a lot, like, very energetic and sometimes impatient. When we were doing articles, it's like, figure it out. It wasn't like, let me help you. Like, how much time have you spent trying to figure it out? So I think, in my opinion, overseas a little bit easier, like in experience, like a little less aggressive, more accommodating. But that's why I think South Africans overseas do so well, right? Is because, to make diamonds, you need other diamonds. And South Africa is full of diamonds, literally and figuratively. But we grind against each other and it makes us tough, right? Makes us strong. So that's my personal opinion, but again, I'd be curious to know what your audience thinks if they've ever interacted with foreign clients.
Okay. I don't know, people don't like change, but I mean, you're clearly doing something different at SAPRO. Where do you see the company going? Talk to us a little bit about your vision for the future. I know you touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but maybe give us a little bit more. Look,
it's like really creating an environment where we have that incredible flexibility to really do and live the way we want to live, right? Zero limitations. So historically, if you look at the industrial age way of thinking, you had to live in a certain place in order to get opportunities, right? You had to move if you wanted to get certain opportunities, right? You had to be with the right people in the right place. You're very restricted. And what SAPRO wants to do is, using the digital age, the information age, we want to really flip that. And we want to rebalance society for the good. So look at us more as a sustainability company. So no longer are you limited to who you were born to, where you were born to, and the opportunities that you have in that zip code where you live. The world is really your oyster. And at SAPRO, what we want to do is we want to kind of open up that economy to everyone. Because you know what? Sometimes in this perceived the grass is greener, I can tell you we struggle with, and I'm saying myself because I'm in New York City and I'm assuming a lot of people thinking the grass is greener in New York City, but suffer a lot with work-life balance, working 18 hours like a day, no big deal. Yeah, sure, you're making a lot of money, but you're sacrificing a lot to get it, right? Mental wellness here is like deadly. People are taking like substance abuse, not abuse, but substances to kind of be normal and stuff. And like, I'm generalizing, like, I have no data with me, I can't talk, but when I talk to people, I'm like, how are you feeling? And like, let's say there's just too much opportunity and everyone's running for that carrot. We do a lot of good with our team members. And I always tell our pros, we call our consultants pros, I say, do not underestimate. Yes, you're coming here because you think it's a better opportunity for you. You can learn, you can broaden your horizons, but do not underestimate that you're helping the people that you're working with. Because without you, they're going through a lot of suffering. It might not be financial suffering, right? You might have gone historically through financial suffering, depending what level of privilege you had. But these guys are going through a different level of suffering, and you can't say which one's worse, which one's the worst one to have. So for us, it's really bringing balance. That's what we care about. That's how we measure ourselves. for us, we are a for-profit, but the for-profit is to make sure that we can capitalize and fund the mission, and the mission is to improve the lives of others. And again, that's what Daria and I care about. That's why we started SAPRO. That's why we don't do work for other companies or do anything else, because we figured out a niche that we could impact, our personal selves and our personal mission. And again, your question earlier, why join SAPRO? If you align to that and that's what you care about, then SAPRO is the best place for you, because based on my knowledge, I don't know any other company that goes to this much effort. Like, no one can out hustle me on caring and doing the right thing. That I'm 100% sure of. Like, no one can compete with SAPRO. But again, like in any new company, we need to establish ourselves more and more. And we are, as far as I can see, we're doing a tremendous job, and we'll continue to do so.
No, that gives us a good idea. And before we jump into questions, my last question that I like to ask all my guests is, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
My younger self? Well, I think I was more stupid versus having courage, if that makes sense. So I think one of the things I was kind of born with is underestimating how hard something is, and maybe that could be perceived as courage, because I do know when I kind of went on my journey, and I was telling people, I'm going to leave this stuff and I'm just going to go travel and push myself, and I don't care if I don't have cash, and I didn't have cash. I want to go in the red. I didn't understand how hard it would be, but I think the biggest thing I would tell my younger self is listen to your heart. As a young person, again, I made a lot of decisions that were financially driven. Like anyone, I didn't look. I definitely came from a privileged upbringing compared to others. There's no doubt about it. But very normal middle class life, and a very ambitious person, right? I had a lot of ambition and had financial motivations on that ambition. But every time I did something where I was like, I don't really want to do this, but they're throwing a lot of cash at me, has ended up being disaster. So, and I'll tell my kids this, I just follow your heart, right? Follow your passion, follow your heart. The world, the way things are today, you can follow your passions and the money will come. You can figure it out. But that's way more uplifting and fulfilling. And don't be afraid of making mistakes. Like I said, I was saying, I was maybe more stupid than courageous, but I'd say carry on being stupid or carry on being courageous. Don't be fearful, right? Sometimes we're too fearful, especially if you look at the press. Everything's always horrible everywhere. The US included. It's never rosy news in the US either, like South Africa. So just go for it. Follow your heart, go for it. Don't be scared. Have courage. You'll be fine. You're 100% sure you'll be fine.
Follow your heart. Okay. The questions are piling in, so let's jump to them quickly. Got a question from Kim, who says, when is the best time to apply to SAPRO? Third year articles, completed articles?
Yeah, anytime. We're always on the lookout for amazing people, amazing talent, people that kind of really identify themselves with us and go, oh, wow, this is a company that I can believe in and that I can be part in and add value to. So it's never too early, because, all that happens is you get on our radar, right? And if it's too early, we'll tell you it's too early. This is the right time to apply. So from my perspective, always looking out for new talent, always looking to understand kind of who is the community that we need to be taking care of in the future as well, not just now. So please, if you're interested, just apply, reach out, get more information. And you can always ping Daria on me on LinkedIn as well. I know that some people are going to get angry that I'm saying that, but we really do care. We want to make sure that you're getting the information you need to make an informed decision. So please reach out whenever works for you.
And this one seems to come up a lot. So what other positions can a CA apply for at SAPRO besides audit?
Great question. So right now we're working very hard around. Obviously, audit's a great entry point, right? Because like anything, like you think about why does a CA go through audit? Because when you go through audit, that's when you really like start to hone your craft and understand how a business works. And like if you want to become a future CFO or CEO, I mean, we have a lot of CAs that are CEOs. You need to understand the workings and the drivers of the business. So audit, amazing foundation, right? And think about it from an international perspective, it is. And I encourage everyone, do the audit, do a year or two, of audit, understand the industries, understand the practices, the specific regulations, international differences, a different way of thinking, right? But then what we are doing is, because our clients love our auditors so much, and we know that our audit teams want to start cross training, they want to broaden their horizons onto new things. We're now starting to put in some, like a lot of advisory and tax opportunities, depending what your interests are. And those are actually being built up right now, right? Where we're building up the curriculums and the cross training, and also working with our clients to kind of broker that transition from auditor to advisor. And obviously, when you say advisory, that opens up a Pandora's box of opportunities. But we're very big on making sure that a person that's SAPRO is being taken care of, and that we guide you through the process and get you there. It's not just like, yeah, throw you in the deep end, and then if you're not doing a good job, you're going to get shouted at. That's not our culture. It's not the way we work. So right now, yes, we are predominantly audit, but there's so many exciting things happening, and these training curriculums, these guides, clients, where yeah, the accountants will have a platform through audit to be able to then grow into other cross service lines.
Okay, correct. Question from Mudiba. What was the most rewarding feeling after immigrating? Okay, interesting question.
After immigrating, the most rewarding feeling is most probably underestimating how much South Africa has to offer. And I know that kind of is counterintuitive. What do you mean? But they say like sometimes you don't appreciate something until you lose it. And for me, it's rewarding that I can see someone in the eye and tell them South Africa is a great place, right? And I can say that because I've not lived in South Africa for 16 years, right? And I live in a great place in terms of what Hollywood thinks or social media or whatever the world thinks. And I'll still tell you, South Africa is a phenomenal place to live. So for me, that's the most rewarding feeling, that I know that. And I think a lot of the times when I sometimes speak to people, and to us, not a lot of people, but when it does come up, I'm able to kind of explain why I feel and think that based on experience.
And one last question, because I know we're running short on time, but I know we said it's mostly remote, but if you do work at SAPRO, will you be able to work physically at clients overseas at those firms? And does SAPRO assist with visas?
Definitely. So remember, SAPRO as a company, when we were convincing clients, hey, you need South African accountants, right? And the reason we did it is, like we were discussing when I said to you, oh, did you do a secondment? Which in my opinion is a rite of passage, right? And you were like, no, it was the financial crisis and everything. Daria and I were going, there are not enough secondments. Like, so many South Africans want to travel. They want to benefit from this, make money while you're doing it, right? And like it just wasn't enough. And I was like, back then as a youngster, kind of going, relatively young, going, like, if the big four are benefiting with a Greg Maslov coming to New York, surely these other firms would benefit from it as well. And this is a way we can open it up where any South African that wants to travel, that's a CA, can travel. So SAPRO, we are experts in doing mobility and bringing people onshore to a destination, taking care of you, making sure you're safe, 24/7 helpline, creating not just the curriculum that's around your development at a client, but also kind of cultural exchange, entertainment, like the whole experience, right? We have the infrastructure to do that. and right now we're busy re-implementing and reinstituting that infrastructure. So obviously, from a timing perspective, you got to understand that a lot of the clients' people are still virtual. They're only starting to now come back into the office. So, we have people that at SAPRO that are actually traveling at the moment. So we're starting to kind of there's actually a significant amount of people traveling already. A significant amount, not significant compared to our total population of employees, but we do have a significant group that is traveling. They're not getting the full benefit yet, right? And the client's not getting the full benefit yet because the people are not in the office. So that's going to change. Every time I'm keeping a pulse on this, more and more people are starting to come into the office. I think the dynamic's going to be changing, and we are definitely SAPRO. Travel's in our DNA. Travel will never go away, even if the clients say like, I don't need travel. We will always have travel because, again, the Greg Maslov finishing articles and the Dario Grassini finishing his CPA, we want to do travel. So we want our people to be able to travel. So there definitely will be travel, and more in the coming months as we kind of reinvigorate that and markets go back closer to normal.
I'm going to slip through one last question. It's got a question from Richard, who says, from my discussion with people employed at SAPRO, there appears to be a mix. Some are idle, some are working a lot. How does SAPRO ensure balance? Working hours appear to be a bit blurred when someone is working, say, on Australian-based clients and US clients.
Yeah.
How's the flexibility there?
Okay. Great question, Richard. And remember, as a concept, the concept that we are busy executing is a new concept, right? And with that comes a lot of teething issues while we kind of carry on kind of invigorating the processes in terms of being able to accommodate everyone's requirements and needs with the client requirements. So, and also travel's been depressed, right? So that causes a level of complexity now. So in terms of some being idle, yes, there are people that do have idle time, right? But again, if you look at the entire workforce, it's an acceptable percentage of being idle, right? And as a business, we do a number of things in terms of keeping people busy, like we're doing a lot of internal projects, networking, not-for-profit work, and obviously busy working with clients to kind of get those individuals planned. And to be honest, that's no real different to like any company. But in terms of the hours, I can tell you that we're not, with the time zones and everything, we're not 100% happy with that. Like some people love it. Some of our people, like, again, we try to survey as often as possible, like trying to understand where does our community sit on certain things. Some people love it. I don't know if I would have been one of them, but like some of them like actually prefer it, which is kind of interesting. And then others saying, look, it's not their preference. So what we try to do is, again, we try to match massage, but also we are looking at the globe and trying to link people up into friendlier time zones, assuming they want to work virtually, right? So for us, we don't want, people to be having an unreasonable like life balance. That's totally against what we believe in. And a lot of it's like short-term pain for long-term gain, because again, you got to build up the credibility. We got to carry on reinvesting in our infrastructure. We're looking at hybrid, travel, work. And then if someone doesn't want to travel, obviously we look at kind of trying to line them up at a time zone that's reasonable for them, where they can get all the benefits of what they want. But yeah, I mean, there's always a pro and a con that someone has to consider on every decision. So you might have extreme flexibility, but you might have to sometimes like accommodate your hours a little differently to a traditional day. But guess what? You get to miss out on traffic. So there's also another positive, right?
Always up.
See, Chantal loves working the time difference, So yeah. To be honest, like if I lived in South Africa, I would love that too. Maybe spend the morning like doing my own things, and then the afternoons and evenings, like servicing clients and people.
And any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
No, I think we covered it. Like chartered accountants, South African chartered accountants. Again, guys, you guys are phenomenal people, changing the world. I mean, I had a dinner with the Jackass committees a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like asking them, like, what do you care about? What's your agenda? And I was just blown away. Anyway, in my opinion, the younger generation has it right. The older generations, like that I talk to sometimes, they're like, the millennials this and the Gen Zs that, and they're causing a lot of problems. But now what COVID has shown, that's changed, right? That's changed. COVID has shown, like when I talk now to a baby boomer, so you're talking about someone that's considerably older than me, like my parents were baby boomers, right? They're like, I want the same thing that those Gen Zs and the millennials want. Like, I want this extreme flexibility. I want to choose my hours. I want to travel. I want to this. I'm like, you see, I told you they're cleverer than us, right? They're clever. So look, I think I'm just so proud of the South African nation, the country. I'm proud of the CAs, the education system. Like I love being back home. I love going as often as possible. I love being part of home. And I think the biggest thing is, guys, you are champions, like world champions, right? And just be proud of who you are. And the grass isn't always greener, but if you're not sure, like test it out. See for yourself. See if it makes sense for you or not. There are many avenues and opportunities available to you, right? And then just the final thing is just give back, right? Like give back as much as you can. They say that the people that, have a lot, it's because they provide a lot of value, give a lot of value to others. So just give back. And, if you think SAPRO is a good place for you, it most probably is, if you can identify with the things that I'm saying. And please, come apply, help us kind of push the mission, help us uplift others, communities, uplift you. Obviously it starts with you. And look, like any company, we're not perfect, but I can tell you there's no company out there that's trying to be perfect and the best and has the most heart. So that I can stand up and shout to the tops, and like we'll get perfect. Like it's just a matter of time, right? And but as far as I can tell, I mean, at least I've been told we're doing a good job. I'm always asking, please tell me. I want to know. I know that there's a bit of a journey involved, and I encourage any people on here, in terms of what you've heard, in terms of our employees, if you've got any feedback for us on how to be better, I want to hear you. I'm listening, right? Dario's listening, and you can hit me up on LinkedIn. Just send me a message. I read all of that. Again, we want to be the best of the best, and we want to attract the best of the best. So exciting things to come. There's a lot brewing.
That's a great way to end off. The show has been live on YouTube and will be available on the podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell so that you get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Greg, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for having me. And for those that joined, thank you for being interested to join. That's great.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.